everybody. It's Ben Cope from Grappling Insider. Today, I am joined by ADCC Trials champion. He's a 10th Planet Black Belt. He's a combat jiu-jitsu champion, one of the best competitors in the world, Keith Krikorian. Keith, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for giving me some of your time. I reached out to you because we are, 3-4 weeks away from ADCC right now. Obviously, that's kind of the biggest thing that everybody in jiu-jitsu is talking about. How are you feeling just in general about a month out from the big competition?
Man, I think we're closer to like 2.5 weeks out, actually.
Yeah.
I don't feel very, I don't feel too amazing. But there's just a little bit of time left. I could probably pull it together. But yeah, the stress of like getting ready for an event kind of compounds by this point, and this is usually when you'll see me like kind of at my worst,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you kind of had a bit of a rough go. I know you had a rough match this past weekend. You had a bit of a rough go kind of after winning trials, competing over in Grapple Fest, things like that, Polaris. How do you kind of cope with those downs of the competition season?
Man, I mean, I'm not like a stranger to losing for sure. I've lost a lot of matches. But I feel like now it's like normally like I would kind of be a little more comfortable with them, like maybe at lower belts or just even like, a little bit earlier black belt. Like I would probably be a little more comfortable with losses. I kind of accept them as like, that's, that's part of the learning curve, of the like just jiu-jitsu generally. But now it's like, I think it's usually an indication I'm doing something wrong, except in like some cases, like I don't think there's much I could do to beat Mika Galvao, outside of like pumping myself full of steroids, like not saying anything about him, but just me personally, but like, I think most of the time when I lose a match, I like notice that it was probably, in most cases, it was probably because I didn't train the right way, or I like didn't. Oh, sorry. There's a jet going. I don't know if you can hear that.
That's okay. It's all good.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, no, but I didn't train the right way. I didn't prepare the right way. I didn't, maybe I kind of like slacked in like, a few areas, like whether it be recovery or nutrition or, cardio, strength training, right? Didn't wrestle enough, didn't, play, do situationals enough, whatever. And so like, that was kind of like mostly what I've been noticing, has been, or like, because I've lost like just a lot this year. Like this is probably the most I've lost in a super long time. So like, it's definitely like, yeah, it's definitely just kind of like telling me that I need to probably make some changes, and I've tried for this camp, there's stuff out of my control. Like I've kind of been dealing with a lot of health issues for this camp, but for the most part, I'm trying to like, trying to do all the things that I should have been doing for the, the whole year pretty much. But, I just either lost sight of or just like general fatigue, it's just hard to keep a consistent training schedule for the whole year, especially because like, I mean, I was training, for the, what was it? The 2021 East Coast trials or whatever. And then I didn't make it there. So then I just went right back into training, had, a bunch of comps in between, a lot of travel, whatever. Kind of like beat myself down before the West Coast trials. And then I didn't really give myself a break after that, and I think it would have been useful maybe to like kind of let myself breathe. But for the most part, I mean, dude, I've been training since the last ADCC, like it's been like a 3-year camp for this. So like at this point I am pretty beat down and like exhausted. And I think, I think there's, even my body's even like fighting back on a lot of that, it's definitely, it's definitely making me pay. But but you know, I think there's like good that comes out of it too. I think a lot of times I'll like see a lot of improvement in just like the preparation for a tournament, you know, how I handle the stress and like kind of the tougher parts of training camp and, you know, life in general leading up to a competition. So, you know, there's benefits in everything, you know, even if I haven't really been winning lately. I mean, you know, I think that there's a lot of growth that's, you know, that happens when you just push yourself, you know.
For sure. And I think you kind of touched on it, but in terms of compared to other ADCC qualifiers, for example, you've competed a lot this year. So yeah, you could say you lost, but you also competed a ton, especially compared to a lot of other qualifiers. Kind of what is like the ideal balance for you? Would you compete every weekend if you could, or did that kind of get to be too much for you?
I used to compete like every weekend at like purple belt and brown belt, but not literally every weekend, but like, you know, sometimes, you know, like pretty consistently throughout the month, but or throughout the year even. But now I like don't really like, not that I don't like competing that much, but like I don't think it serves me as much benefit, you know. So like doing a bunch of comps isn't really like, I don't know, I don't think it really gives me the same value that it used to. Like I don't really need more mat time, and I certainly don't need to beat my body down anymore. And I really don't need like, I mean, I don't really need any more like, I don't know, accolades or whatever. I don't really care about that. So like for me, it's like more so about just like keeping myself honest and making sure that I'm pushing, you know, for uh you know, like I don't know, just to stay competitive, you know, and stuff. But like I think that like it is good at this point in my career to like kind of like compete less and stay hungry for competition, you know, rather than compete a lot and burn myself out, you know, because I've done that plenty. And I might have even competed too much before this because I do feel generally kind of burnt out right now. But you know, I think I did better than I normally do, you know,
Mhm.
as far as that.
So then what does the final 2.5 weeks of ADCC prep look like for you ideally? Like what, like if you had mentioned, you know, maybe some of these losses tell me I'm training incorrectly or I'm doing things wrong. What does the perfect final kind of 2.5 weeks of prep look like for you?
I don't know. I have no clue. I don't even know what the perfect few months of training would look like, you know? I mean, I tried my best. But I have a tendency to overtrain. I have a tendency to kind of like train maybe like the not smartest way, you know? I mean, I love like really all I love doing is rolling. You know, I love rolling and I love lifting like bodybuilder style weights, you know, like that's really all I like. You know, I like working biceps and chest and you know and
Mhm.
then rolling. That's what I like doing, you know. But I know that's not very like conducive to your development as like an athlete, you know, or even as like definitely not as like a jujitsu guy. So you know, I mixed up a lot of the things I normally do. I did like a lot more specific practices and sought, you know, different rooms and coaches and um, methods of training and stuff. And you know, whether it'll pay off for this camp, I don't know, but I think long term it's good. And next few weeks, I mean, fuck, I don't know. I'm coming off of, like sickness right now. I got like pretty major food or I don't even know if it was food poisoning, but I was like bedridden for about 5 days. Just with like stomach issues and like I even had the only times that I left my house were to compete and to go to the hospital.
Wow.
But uh, um, so yesterday was my first day training and I felt like shit, but um, hopefully these next couple weeks I'll get my strength back and my like energy back And hopefully I'll feel pretty good. But we'll see. I don't know. It's not like, it's not like there's much I can change right now. I'm just gonna kind of keep, stay the course. And yeah, I don't know. Try to just, I don't know. Try to maybe study and drill a little more. But I want to go live. Even still, just to keep myself sharp. But we'll see. I'll kind of tinker with it.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, you strike me as somebody who just friggin' loves jujitsu, loves rolling, loves wrestling, loves that. And I think to that end, jujitsu can be a bit of a gift and a curse for somebody who wants to prepare like an athlete, because if you ask you, what do you want to do every day? I have a guess that you would say, I want to roll like 3 hours every day, 4 hours, whatever you could possibly do. That's the funnest part of jiu-jitsu, right? So I don't know if I even have a question there, but just like, I think that makes a ton of sense, man, that if you love jiu-jitsu, you're going to get really good at it because you love jiu-jitsu so much. But the curse there is that like, you kind of have to like, take your foot off the gas a little bit at some point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so. That's what I've kind of like come to understand probably the past like year. I've adjusted. I mean, even adjusted my normal training. Like I said, like we're talking about, like I used to just roll. I mean, I would take class and I would drill, but I wasn't really present, and I would kind of like just talk mostly, and then I would just roll super super hard for as long as I possibly could until they kicked me out, basically. And now, or even over the past year or whatever, I've like kind of developed a different style of rolling in the gym, and I've taken a focus on drilling more, and I've studied a lot more, and I've, looked at different aspects and looked at different aspects of my game, and like tried to like kind of look objectively and see where I need to improve, and then fixing those mistakes in training. So it's not like I'm just constantly just rolling, throwing a million techniques to someone. I'm kind of like specifically rolling with a focus on one technique, which is not as much fun. But it is good for your, I think you're like in development, improvement and stuff. So, so I, even that, I've just had to make a bit of an adjustment, but, beyond that, I mean, I do like to get into like savage mode when I'm, getting ready for something like ADCC, so it's like, I am trying to do a lot of rounds, and I am trying to beat my body down and overtrain, and kind of like, put myself in the grind, and, like kind of emulate like a wrestling season, I mean, I don't think the way the wrestling season is set up, or like high school wrestling is like, or like was run usually, was like the best thing. Maybe it's different now, but when I was in high school, it was kind of like you just train and calorie deficit and fucking, compete every weekend or sometimes twice a week, and then, or, like with duels and stuff in the middle of the week, and then just hope that you're fresh by the end of season still. So like, but like, I didn't always feel amazing doing that, but like, I definitely felt like a savage, and I think there's elements of that I like try to take for this camp, and then elements of like, being smarter and like, working with like a strength conditioning performance coach, and working with like a specific wrestling coach, or, wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu coach, working with my normal jiu-jitsu coach, working with, all my normal training partners, finding new training partners, finding new rooms, drilling a lot more, studying more, watching tape, watching instructions, whatever. And like kind of infusing a lot of that with like, just my normal routine of just overtraining and rolling as much as I possibly can,
Mm-hmm, for sure. And you're a guy that like travels around a lot, visits a lot of different gyms. What are kind of the benefits to that, or even the challenges involved with traveling and training at different gyms with different partners?
Yeah, fuck, dude, I got to do that way less because I keep getting injured. Because I was talking to Mason Fowler about it. Because I went up to his gym, and we were just talking. I was at his comp session. He's like, yeah, man, it's when because he was doing the same thing that I was. He was, traveling a lot, rolling at different gyms, and he's a big guy, and he was even telling me, like that's not really sustainable for like a camp, like you can't supplement your like training for that. Like that's got to just be something you do, in your kind of off season, because like when you're in your own room, you can kind of identify like easier rounds, harder rounds. You know your the movements of your partners, the techniques there, like that are mostly in their game, and you can kind of keep yourself safe that way. And you can push when you need to push, and you can pull back like when you need to push back. And I'm sure that there's more pushing that's happening, but like for the most part, you're staying very safe. So when you go to someone else's gym, it's like you can't identify who the good guys are, who the bad guys are. Not bad, but like who the more reckless guys are or whatever. So you're kind of like more prone to just accidents, and like I was running into that a lot at other gyms. Like I would just, the guy would walk up to me and be like, "Hey, what's up, yeah, let's roll." And then like, he goes 1,000,000% or whatever, which is fine, but I'm not familiar with his movements. And if you're going, full speed with a person who you've never really, seen, or you don't know anything about, like it's just really hard to like make those on the fly, calculations. And then you can just kind of run into issues that way. And I was getting injured like a lot. So, lately I've just kind of like been rolling with people that I'm like familiar with. And even, in other rooms, like just finding guys, if I don't know the room too well, like just finding guys my size and like finding and looking in like, rolling a little more, less like intuitively and more like presently, like, all right, like don't fight fire with fire, like kind of flow a little bit more, but like still push and kind of just take some intel, while I'm rolling and stuff. And so I kind of adjusted that. So like, because I do love, like I'd love going to other gyms and just rolling hard with a bunch of people, but like I just kept getting injured, and leading up to a camp that really stifles your training, and like, dude, when you're in camp and you can't train, it drives you absolutely insane. Like I had a really probably like much shorter camp for this than I should have, because I lost about a month of training with like a pretty serious rib injury. And that was like really, really stressful, because I wanted to be training. I felt like, I should have been obviously doing more, and I did what I could, but it's like, there's not much you can do, especially with a rib, and so like, yeah, so, preventing that is like super, super important. And I did a pretty good job for this camp for the, like, once the rib healed, I did a pretty good job of keeping everything safe, but, but for the most part, that was like kind of a big issue this year. But all part of the learning process.
Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like that's another kind of gift and a curse thing, because I feel like most people that do jujitsu, that kind of sounds like the dream. Like you get to travel around the country, like
Oh yeah, it's
rolling with
great.
all kinds of
Yeah.
people, and I'm sure you love that. But it's also like
Yeah.
the curse part is like, well, I could be rolled with this like spazzy 250-pound guy who has no idea what he's doing, and I get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even if they do, I mean, just like rolling with big guys are more prone to injury, So it's great. I truly do love it. But like leading up to big events, like it's just, you can't get away with it, like you have to be, I think, staying in your wheelhouse and kind of working with the guys that are safe and less likely to injure you. And it's not as fun. Like it's more boring. It's boring rolling with the same guys all the time. It is. I love my training partners, but it's boring when we've been training together for weeks on end, months on end, right? But I'm I can't always be doing the stuff I want to do. I got to do the stuff I need to do, and that's probably a big step in becoming a professional or whatever, you know, or kind of shedding my, you know, like just amateurish predisposition, I guess, you know. It's tough, but it's good. I think it's going to lead to a lot of growth, and hopefully it shows at this tournament, you know, if not, hopefully in the future.
All right, I want to backtrack a little bit, talk a little bit about, I can't remember when West Coast trials were. March, late March, early March?
I think April. No,
April.
maybe March. I think you're right. I forget actually.
Maybe the
Early
end of March.
April. I think early April, I think is when it was.
That sounds right. You had a 1 week stretch that might have been I was inspired just watching you, man. You had the 1 week stretch where you beat Gabriel Souza in what I would say right now is the 2022 match of the year.
Oh, wow. Thanks, bro.
And then, yeah, of course. And then the very next week, you know, winning the biggest West Coast, the biggest trials ever. Describe to me that week, what it felt like, what went right, kind of how did you feel during that week? Because it was a pretty awesome like run.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I forget. I like personally forget about the Gabriel Souza match a lot. So it's nice to hear you say that, because that was the biggest win of my career. At that point, you know. And yeah, and like you said, it happened a week before the biggest tournament of my life, you know, or not maybe biggest tournament, but one, you know, big event. Yeah, man. I mean, I think what I thought was going to happen was I go to the Who's Number One. I, you know, make way to 155, and then I chill there. And then, you know, I feel really good, you know, going into the West Coast trials. And like, only part of that was true. Like, I weighed in at 155, and then I just my body I just ballooned back up to, it was probably like 165. Not like that day, but like that, like, you know, shortly after. And I was like, well, shit. And then my body was just like, hey, you just cut weight. I'm not getting down that easy. Like, you know, you're going to have to chill out, man. And that, so like, I went through all the stress of travel and the match and the weight cut, and then, you know, ballooned back up in weight, and then had to cut. I mean, it was like 20 pounds to in like a week to get to what is it, 45? Yeah, for the trials. And then, you know, I remember like I went through like a bunch of personal stuff that week. It wasn't really anything in my control. It was kind of I don't know. I just, you know, I don't know if I should get into it, just because it's like, it wasn't really about me as much as like someone I know and someone from my past, I guess. And so like I had to deal with that, which was like, I mean, I tried to handle it as best I could, but it was like still pretty emotionally draining and whatnot. And that happened like that same week before trials. And so I was like just stressed on my mind, and I was just like, you know. And then I like didn't go to Vegas until I think I've told this story a couple of times, maybe even to you, but like I like didn't even go to Vegas until the night before. And that was a terrible mistake, because my flight got like delayed, canceled, and then not canceled. And then I didn't get in until about 3 a.m. And then I was still, dude, I was like, I cut 12 the day before, and I cut 6 before I left my house. And then, or 6 before I left for the airport, rather. And then 6 when I got to Vegas at like 3 a.m. in this hot ass sauna, and I felt like shit. And then I get there, you know, and I like barely make weight, and just I don't know. It was just like, it was a big preparation thing. Like I just like, you know, didn't really like, I just, you know, like, I mean, yeah, it was my body, you know, like kind of fighting back after the Who's Number One weight cut, but like it was also just like I wasn't as disciplined as I should have been, and my body's changing so fast now that I'm like older. Like I really like I used to be able to like just, I would fine tune like everything. And like, I had a good read on my body, like let's say like high school, college-ish, like early college, I'd say. Like I was just consistently one weight, and I would just drop at the right times when I needed to. I knew exactly what I needed to do, to get there. And I know everything's changed. Like starting in college, I just like my weight just like was like up and down and all over the place, and like my body responded differently to training, and I like have no clue what's going on anymore. So like it's partially just out of my control. Like I don't really know what to do. Hoping I can figure that out at some point, but it's just like, it's just super difficult to like manage like a growing body. Like I'm like in this like weird phase of my life where I'm like between I'm like actively competing in jiu-jitsu and like, trying to figure out what weight class I'm in and stuff between like, like 18 and I'm 24 now. Like my body's changing that entire time. Like it's probably like the biggest growth spurt or whatever, or just maturity thing for my body. And I'm like still trying to get a hold of that. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And it's super, super tough. So like all that is just like, compounds and so anyways, just like, it was just like a really stressful and chaotic like week, right? And then like immediately after that, I just go right back into training. I go, right back into my normal life. Like I should have probably just fucking gone to Hawaii for like a month, and done nothing. Like I should have just given my mind a rest, and then, but I didn't. I just went right back in. I think I had that Grapple Fest match a month after, so I was like training really hard for that. I was training, but I wasn't really training, kind of like thing. Like I wasn't like, I was training, but I was like still just thinking about, the like crazy, like last month that I had and like everything that was going on with that. And, I'm like, now like people are actually asking me to do seminars and stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. This is great, but you also need to prepare for like tough matches, and as well as the toughest tournament of probably the past maybe ever, at ADCC. And like, and I just, so many things I would have done different. And hopefully I can kind of adjust moving forward, but it's just been such a like a busy year, and it's like so emotionally draining, and I don't know, man. I just maybe this is easier for other guys, but it's not for me. Like I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm like more just like an average human or whatever, and these other guys are just like I don't know, cyborgs or something. Because like this, like I don't know, like it's weird. Like I don't know how these normal jiu-jitsu guys or these high-level jiu-jitsu guys like manage it. I don't know how Mika does it. I don't know how like Gordon and fucking who were the other guys, like let's I don't know, Craig or whoever. Like I don't know how they all do it. Like super hard, and it's not as easy as people make it look, maybe, like the constant training and the constant like pushing yourself to get better and stuff like that is really, really hard. So anyways, yeah, man, just there was a lot going on this year, and it's good. It's like, been a lot, mostly for the better. But a lot that I like probably shouldn't have done, there's a lot of things I shouldn't have done this year. And I did because I like doing them. I love competing and traveling, and and like kind of like enjoying this cool life that jiu-jitsu has afforded me. But like at the same point, you only get that by like training the right way, doing the right things, and or like and I kind of like maybe just kind of like slip back in old patterns, and I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I think you're a little modest, a little humble, because you could probably walk into like basically any jujitsu gym in the world, and as soon as somebody grabs a hold of you, they're not going to think you're a normal, just a normal human. I can like basically guarantee you that.
You'd be surprised.
Um,
Yeah. pretty average.
That's wild to hear you say that. I think it's super interesting that that week where you had this incredible win over I forgot his name. You had this incredible win over Souza, sorry, and then
Oh,
you
yeah,
and
you're
then you
good now.
and then you won West Coast Trials. It's interesting that it was such a kind of a chaotic week for you. I'm curious,
Yeah.
do you think some of that success at Trials had to do with, like, you didn't have any time or energy to get into your own head? You were so focused on, like, "How the fuck am I gonna get to Vegas tonight? How am I gonna cut this
Yeah,
weight?" Did that have anything to do with it?
maybe. I don't know. I mean, dude, I wasn't thinking about anything. Like, I
Mhm,
was just, I don't know. I was just, yeah, I don't know. Just very vision questy, you know. Like, I
mhm,
was just thinking about jujitsu. Like, I was just thinking about the tournament, pretty much. You know, like I wasn't necessarily thinking about anything that was going on outside of it. Like, you know, even everything that was going on. Like, I was kind of emotionally removed. You know, like um from everything, and like I don't know. I just, you know, I, it's uh it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't like functioning like that as like a human. I like to be very present and like aware, and but leading up to that, like, I was probably the opposite of that. Like, I was probably like very forward thinking. I wasn't very present at all. Like, I like, you know, didn't really care what anything that was like happening around me, you know, just like focused and stuff. And and like nothing was going to stop me from, you know, getting to that tournament, getting down to weight, like winning that tournament, you know, like nothing was going to stop me. And you know, I'd like to tap into that for this. As of right now, I don't have it. I don't know what's going on, but that's not an easy mindset to get into, right? Like,
mhm,
that's like a tough like spot to be in when you're just in the zone and nothing can stop you, you know.
mhm.
Um, but who knows, you know? Maybe I could get there. I feel like I've not just been working, you know, toward this, like, for this camp. Like, it's been forever, you know. Like, I mean, fucking A, dude. I've been like working probably just as hard, if not harder, than anyone since, you know, I started this, you know. And especially like with wrestling, like I didn't accomplish many of my goals in wrestling, um, but I definitely like put in all the work, like laid the groundwork, to like have success in other things, you know, like in specifically jujitsu. Um, you know, now that I'm past that, but I mean, shit, dude, like it was, you know, I like, I've, you know, I've definitely put in the work, you know, in a lot of ways. And like I said, I don't know if it'll pay off for this necessarily, but like, I mean, I definitely have like uh a lot of like like built up in the kind of the bank, you know, so to speak, I guess, like of of training. um
Yeah.
and I don't know, man. Hopefully, you know, hopefully it's enough. I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I don't feel, as of right now, like I don't feel like I even necessarily belong at this event, and that I even am in the same league as a lot of these guys, like of any of these guys. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you were to create some sort of like betting odds for this event, I'd probably be the least likely favorite, right? Or whatever, or least likely pick. But, you know, but I, I like know that I know that I can't count myself out of anything. Like, I've learned that about myself forever. And I've learned that about people, you know, like
Mhm,
obviously in other sports, this is a thing. In life, this is a thing. Like, you can never count anyone out. There's just this element of unpredictability that exists in, you know, this sport, and B, just life. And, you know, I'm not willing to just roll over and kind of like give up um, my turn at this, you know. Like, I'm gonna
mhm.
do whatever I can, and I'm gonna, you know that in theory I have as good a shot as anyone. You know, maybe people don't believe that, but, you know, and maybe you know, maybe in my heart of hearts, you know, don't necessarily believe that, but I mean, I know it's true. Like there's always, you know, a way to win everything. So anyways, I think that's kind of the mindset. That's the only mindset I can think to go in with, just because, you know, I know things I've been training as hard as I can, but fucking this camp has not gone how I wanted at all. You know, not much more I can do than just go out there and you know, try my best.
Well, hey man, I'll say this. I think you're a little too hard on yourself. I think, I don't know how much my opinion is worth to you, but I cover jujitsu for a living, so it can't be worth nothing. But I would certainly not put you at the bottom of the totem pole at 66 kilograms. I think you're right that you have as good of a shot as anyone else to win it, especially with no returning champion. Talking about mindset, though, the first time I interviewed you was after the East Coast, the 2021 East Coast trials and before the West Coast trials.
Yeah.
And at that point, you had won silver at 3 consecutive trials. And I asked you, like, what needs to change for you to finally get this gold? And you said, I just need to like believe that, like basically say to myself, I'm Keith Krikorian and I'm an ADCC trials champion. Like, just believing that like I can do that. Do you still have any of that mindset? Are you able to bring any of that mindset into ADCC?
I mean, kind of, man. I don't know. I had precedent to like believe that I could win the trials, right? Like I had medaled so many times and like made it to the finals every single time that I'd done it. So like in theory, I was a coin flip away from winning those, right? ADCC last time, I just got absolutely smothered and destroyed, and like there's not as much a precedent for me to believe that I can like win the tournament. So it's a different mindset, you know. I'm not just gonna I'm not just gonna like be like, oh yeah, you're you can win this, you know. It's not that simple for this, because I don't have any, like, I don't really have any evidence to back that up, you know. I mean, the trials is a much different tournament than actual ADCC. It's like the exact opposite tournament pretty much. And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like for this event, it would be kind of an unhealthy mindset for me to go in with that same one that I went to the trials with, which was a good mindset in that turn. Like, like I said, nothing was going to stop me for that event. And not saying that something in theory will stop me for this one, but it's, I think that I have to scale it a little bit. I have to just kind of know, like, you know, man, a lot can go wrong, but like, I'm going to have to just fight as hard as I can, and, you know, win or lose, kind of be at peace with that, you know? And like, I don't know what it feels like to even win a match at ADCC, because I haven't, you know. Last time I just lost 2 straight matches, and like that, you know, doesn't really give me a whole lot of experience. So like I have to kind of like play pretend a little bit, and like, you know, just know that like it is possible, and like, and I have to believe in that possibility, you know. Like, I mean, I'm not just gonna, I mean, maybe a performance coach or like a mental coach would have something different to tell me, but like, I can't just tell myself you're gonna win. It seems like that seems like I would just be putting too much pressure on myself for a very statistically like low chance thing. Yeah, I feel like it's maybe not the right thing to tell myself, but I feel like if I tell myself to just go for it and just kind of like full send and do as best I can, see what happens, you know, like I can do that. I can fucking, you know, I can throw myself with these guys and, you know, see what happens. You know, I think, yeah, there's a world where I win this tournament. Fuck yeah, there is, you know. I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know if it's the most likely thing or anything, but like, yeah, man. I mean, it can happen for any of us, you know. So I have to at least believe in that.
Absolutely. And then in terms of like actual like on mat performances, I like watching you. I think you're an incredible leg locker, but I also think you have pretty good at least recently, you've been showing off some good wrestling. Your like guard passing, I thought, has looked really good this year. What is like you talked about like what if I just full send? What is Keith Krikorian's best A game? Like if you are buzzsawing through guys, like what do those matches look like for you?
Man, just like mixing up everything, just like literally throwing the kitchen sink at everyone. My game is largely built around submission attempts and then reactions based off those submissions. Maybe I'm giving too much away here, but like, so I'm going to pull back a little, but like, I think full send me is like, or me going full send, excuse me, is just like throwing everything at those guys and like seeing what sticks, and seeing what happens and like not chilling, like, man, I mean, just, I don't know, my past few matches, like I just haven't wanted to be there. Like, I just fucking, like didn't really have either the energy or the like mental capacity to just like, fight hard. I was just like, why am I even doing this? And that's something I want to stay away from for this. Like, I want to go out and just like kind of like roll like how I know how I roll in the in the gym or whatever. Like, obviously there's a lot of different variables there, but like, I mean, I'm at my best when I'm just like constantly attacking, and yeah, man, I think that's the way for me to do it. Like, just fucking throw everything, man, like everything, like I said, without getting too specific, because I'm probably giving too much away, maybe.
Well, I will say, I don't want to get in too deep to your strategy, but like I think back to that Gabriel Souza match where I felt like maybe you were giving him certain leg entanglements, for example, that you were willing to give him in hopes that like, well, maybe he's going to go after my heel, and then that creates an opportunity for me. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah. That's not a strategy I like to use with everyone.
Right.
But no, I mean, I'm specifically, I was talking about kind of like just throwing an attack at someone and then like basing my next attack off their reaction, I guess, and like that usually leads to good stuff when I'm doing that. But like if I just throw one attack and then I miss it and then I don't do anything after, it doesn't work. That has probably never worked for anyone, right? So it's like just relentless attacks. That's what I felt like I did really good in the Souza match. I haven't watched that in a super long time. I barely even remember the match, but like I felt like from what I remember, I was like just really relentlessly attacking, and that's what you need to do, and yeah, man, if I do that, I can make it happen. Yeah, there's nothing on earth I want more than to do well at this tournament. Like literally all that I ever think about is me winning this turn. Like, like me doing well at this tournament, even, like even just losing a really competitive match. Like that's all I fucking want to do is like do well at ADCC. That's like always been my goal. And if I can just do well, whatever that is, I don't know necessarily what that looks like, but like if I can do well, I'll sleep okay, like, but I just don't want to go out there and literally like fucking lay an egg, like I felt like I have lately, and I definitely did at the last ADCC, and I just want to fucking go out there and just kind of just go for it, man. Like it's just, it's like it's not an opportunity you get very often. Like, I mean, I had to go through hell to get this opportunity. I never thought I'd go to ADCC ever again. And now that I'm here, it's an opportunity I have to kind of capitalize on, or I at least have to try to. So yeah, man, as shitty as everything's been, like I'm gonna fucking go for it, and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look forward to it very much so.
Thanks, man.
That's all I had for you today. Before I let you out of here, do you have any like sponsors you want to shout out? Where can people follow you on social media? All that good stuff.
Yeah. I have some sponsors, a lot of sponsors that have helped me out for this camp, actually. I've been really, really grateful. My like main sponsors, Perry, or my like, you know, like apparel sponsors, Perry, Funky Fries, was my old, I used to work there in college, or slightly after college. They sponsored me for this. Master Vic Productions, they sponsored me. It's a lot of people, and I'm already forgetting. 10 Planet San Diego, even. A lot of people, fucking, I'm an idiot for forgetting. But and then yeah, and I'm not like crazy active on social media, so don't worry about that. But I do have a Patreon page that I am pretty active on, and I trying to grow. So if you like, I just teach, or I just like usually throw out jiu-jitsu instructional videos, and if you like that kind of stuff, I have a Patreon. It's just Keith Krikorian at patreon.com or whatever. And check that out for sure, because it's super affordable, and it really helps me out a lot. And I'd like to grow that to just kind of help me on this path to becoming like a guy who makes money doing this thing, which as of right now is like really, really hard to do. So if you could support me on that, that'd be great.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks so much. Like I said, looking forward to seeing you compete at ADCC.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.